Greetings, friends, and welcome to Beast Foundry. My name is Christian, and as usual, I will be your guide today. Today, we are going to discuss the city of Timberhaunt. Now, for many of you that are in our West Marches games or play in some of my Patreon games, you're very familiar with Timberhaunt, but we're going to go into a little more detail about it. The city itself has been the hub of Cordok for thousands of years, actually. Its name has changed occasionally over the millennia, but the form and function of the city has always been the same. From Axespider Forest, dark oak and silver pine lumber are shipped to the city and then moved to all over the world. This wood only grows in Axespider Forest, and the amount of fey and intelligent plants in that forest ensure that the forest never really worries about having to be over-milled, as it were. There seems to be some very strong magic about the place. In fact, the forest has only grown in size, something that a few people are actually beginning to take note of. But for the most part, it's a pretty limitless resource, and the fact that it takes an insane amount of effort to actually fell one of these trees is what makes the lumber so valuable, and then shipped all over the world. So it is the focal point of commerce for pretty much the entire island, honestly. There used to be about 24 noble families that controlled various aspects of life on the island, as it were. Over time, this has whittled down to 8 families. Now, the city itself is ruled by a council. Long ago, it was actually a council that was pulled from elder members from one of each of the noble houses. However, in the last few hundred years, the citizenry has kind of been slowly moving away from allowing the nobles to control so much. And the city councilmen, they basically kind of are pulled from the rank and file citizens of the city, whether they be merchants or prominent locals, heroes, things like that. Now, of course, the nobles are going to get involved, and you will often find that certain council members lean towards certain noble families. But for the most part, they do a pretty good job of keeping things separate. The council appoints a Lord Mayor that basically oversees the day-to-day operations, and then the council meets to discuss the important matters, the creation of laws, the adjudicating of justice on things that perhaps the courts themselves are not ill-equipped to deal with. So from there, we have this all filters down into the city guard, which is pretty standard. There might be a few spellcasters amongst the city guard, but for the most part, not really. They are kind of more relegated to the noble houses, and let's go over those. The most prominent of the houses is House Hart. They control basically the lumber guild, the logging operations. They are the backbone of this. They are also well known for being a very good family. They have always taken an interest in the city and its people. You can't really go, 100 feet without encountering someone that has been helped by House Hart in the city of Timberhaunt. So as the city is itself trying to expand into the lumber industry itself to generate more income from the city without having to turn to the nobles, that's putting them a little bit at odds with House Hart. However, there's no clear good and bad here as far as the citizens are concerned. No one views the Hart family as evil or bad, just like no one views the city as evil or bad. So it's an uphill battle for the city, and it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. A second after House Hart is the Kristoff family. They run the Huntsman Guild, and they are responsible for a lot of the hunters and trackers, guides throughout the island. They deal a lot with furs, animal pelts, decorations of those, nature antlers, things like that. But a lot of their wealth has come from exploring a lot of the old ruins, and they have a significant amount of mercenaries under their employ. It's a natural transition of their senior huntsmen that they hire themselves out, and they are very competent warriors. They don't control massive amounts of mercenaries, but what they do have are small amounts of mercenaries that have an incredible amount of skill at what they do. So they're a force to be reckoned with for sure. Number 3 is House Dandrick. They control the Farmers Guild. They oversee a lot of the operations of various towns nearby, local families that grow the city's food. Well, not only the city, but for the entire island. A lot of people can come there. They have a great deal of knowledge of crops and, plant husbandry, as it were, horticulture, all of these kinds of things that they're sort of the go-to family for a lot of these things. And again, they rose to prominence and power just through their ability to keep the island sustained with food throughout harsh winters and various other crises, whether they be natural or supernatural. Next, we have House Fezerin that runs the Explorers Guild, and as such, they also run the Adventurers Guild. They are, again, all of the families are pretty good people. There isn't anything that is very clear, like, oh, they're horrible. They basically, they try to take advantage of people to improve their wealth and that. And yes, they're wealthy, but there really isn't a lot of such things going on. So it's difficult to point fingers in times like that or amongst those kinds of accusations. The Adventurers Guild is very prominent and actually pretty powerful. They control what the adventurers go, what they do, and can deal with a lot of the information of what the adventurers find out there. So they have a good, their finger on the pulse of the city, as it were, and the surrounding region for, all of the things that are going on, almost as much as the Kristoff family. Next, we have House Sovereign. They run the Seafarers Guild, and they're responsible for a lot of the shipping industry, transporting the lumber to Calidor from Cordok, overseeing a lot of that stuff. So, again, the lumber industry is the lifeblood of Cordok, and most of these noble families that are remaining interact with that industry in some capacity. Number 6 is House Rainier. They are the Craftsmen's Guild. They work with a lot of the ironworkers, the armorers, the blacksmiths, the carpenters, all of those folks. They have slowly over several hundred years been collecting these guilds into their fold, and now basically control the most prominent of all of those guilds of each of their fields. So House Rainier is, they deal with, turning this lumber into a lot of products. Furniture that comes from House Rainier, wooden hafted weapons, things like that can be bought all over Calidor and found all over the world, honestly. Next, we have House Lankmere. They run the Bookbinders Guild, but also control a good deal of magical knowledge. They are, they run the library. They have a strong tie with Starlight Tower. They host a number of wizards within their own family, but they're very friendly to the spellcasting community, as such are generally held in high regard amongst those folks. House Lankmere is just one of the good magic houses, and if you're adventurers that are looking for magical goods, will be dealing with House Lankmere 100%. And lastly, we have House Delhorn. They run the Ironworkers Guild, which a bit different than House Rainier that has, actual, the blacksmiths and the armorers and that. The Ironworkers Guild, they secure the ore that is supplied to House Rainier. They actually deal a lot with Black Anvil Keep and getting raw ore from the dwarves themselves. They also bring ore in from Calidor and keep the island in a pretty decent supply of it. While it's said they run the Ironworkers Guild, this pretty much covers all manner of ore throughout the island itself. They have some very interesting ties to Ghost Hammer Peak. It's a bit of an interesting story that we're not going to get into now because I want to have some fun with our adventures in our West Marches campaign. But rest assured, House Delhorn, while they certainly are kind of the least of these 8 families, they still wield a great deal of power and influence throughout the entire island. That's about all we have for you guys today. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the city of Timberhaunt and the noble families. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. As always, I cannot keep doing this without your guys' support, so please consider joining the Patreon. For those of you that already have, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are the guys that allow me to continue to do this. So again, thank you. I will have links to all of the relevant stuff below, how to join the Discord, play our West Marches game if you want, support the Patreon, all that good stuff. So you guys, as always, game well, my friends.